Hi everyone, welcome to Openings Nut number 1. This is a new series I've been wanting to do for a while. It's going to be taking a look at some lines in the openings that are a little bit too detailed or offbeat to be covered in an overview series like Opening Basics. And I just had a game that reminded me of a position I wanted to explore, and I thought this would make a good opportunity to start this series off. So you can think of Openings Nut as me, the Openings Nut, or you can think of it as an Openings Nut is a little nugget of information about the openings. Either way, let's get started. So in the game in question, I got fooled in a hyper-accelerated dragon. But let's build up to it a little bit. Let's start with a normal classical Sicilian dragon. So that starts off e4, c5. We're in a Sicilian. Knight f3, d6. One of the standard moves in the Sicilian. To get to all the classical lines, you play d6 right there. Then d4, breaking in the center. White wants to play an open Sicilian. Black takes, and then develops the knight. And it's the kingside knight that gets developed because it's attacking the e-pawn. And this is important because black wants to force white to play the c-pawn out to defend. And the c-pawn blocks, the knight on c3 blocks the c-pawn. And so white is prevented from playing a Maroczy bind. So that's the point of this move order. And after knight c3, this is all main line here. There's a lot of moves that black has. Most popular here is a6, the Najdorf Sicilian. We're going to look at the classical Sicilian with knight c6. There's also g6, the dragon Sicilian. We'll cover that next. And then there is e6, the Scheveningen. So I just wanted to mention that the Scheveningen is not considered so great these days because white has the move g4 here. It's with this bishop blocked. There's no pressure on that pawn. It can come forward and harass this knight. And this early g-pawn push is just good for white. So something to watch out for. And against the Najdorf, there's lots of different ways to play. But we are looking first at the classical Sicilian. And one point I wanted to make here is that black is offering a trade here. And a lot of times I play the classical Sicilian myself as black. A lot of times I see white taking here. And this is a slight mistake. It's not like this is losing for white or anything, but it's giving up some opening advantage. And in fact, if you just continue normally, say with a bishop move to try and clamp down on this d-pawn push, black can push on with e6, and this d-pawn push comes anyway, and it gains a tempo on the bishop. So the basic problem here is that black has got an extra pawn in the center. Maybe black is a little behind in development. It's not like black is winning or anything, but he's managed to equalize pretty comfortably here. So that's not a move that's played in this position. And of course, there are lots of moves that are played here. Bobby Fischer, like this knight to c4 here, the Fischer-Sozen attack. Another very popular move here is bishop to g5. That's maybe the most popular move here. After e6, this leads to the poison pawn variation with the queen coming out here and attacking this pawn. Very complicated stuff. There's also just bishop to e2. It's a classical way to play, just keeping control over this square. This is a more positional approach. Anyway, a lot of moves to play here. Just knight takes c6 is not considered so good. Anyway, let's take a look at the next position here. The next line I wanted to look at is just a regular Sicilian dragon. So go through the main line again. And here we reach that position on move 5 where black has all those choices. Najdorf, Scheveningen, etc. Classical. So g6 is the dragon variation, and it's a very interesting way to play. There are let's continue on with the main lines here. This is called the Yugoslav Attack, this particular line, and it is the main line of the dragon. The bishop comes out, this bishop comes out, the pawn comes to f3, this knight comes out here, and knight takes c6. Still not considered good here. I think for the same reasons. It just pulls an extra pawn towards the center and doesn't give white any particular advantage. So the idea with the Yugoslav attack is to set up this nice little quadrilateral here, or diamond shape of pieces. They're all kind of well coordinated, and the queen is lifted off the back rank, so the king can castle to the queen side, and then you'll have a rook here shooting down the center of the board. So a nice way to play. Black castles here, and white has two choices. Bishop c4 is actually the top choice in the database, but it's not the way I play. The way I play is with the second choice, castles queenside. Now, it used to be thought, if we back up a move, it used to be thought that you needed to play bishop c4 in order to stop this d5 pawn push, and that was going to be equalizing for black if black managed to get that in. But later it was found out that black does not equalize so easily there. So you can just castle here, and if black plays this d5 pawn push, here's the line to, it doesn't exactly refute it, but it leaves white with a good position. You take the pawn first, black takes back, and then you take the knight on c6. So we had two examples where taking the knight on c6 was a bad move, but in this case, taking the knight on c6 is the only move that gives white an advantage. And the reason is that you're taking with tempo, because you're hitting the queen here, and you're taking at a time when he has to take back with a pawn, and it's also at a time where he's already lost his d-pawn. His d-pawn has been traded off. So now this c-pawn that came forward towards the center is an isolated pawn, and that just makes a big difference. And then it's white's move here after the exchange, and you get to play this bishop d4 move. So there was this threat against the knight on c3, threatening to at least mess up the pawn structure over there, but you can shield that with the bishop on d4, and then this is just fine. I mean, play continues. Black can push here, white can go here, hitting the rook. A lot of things can happen from this position, but it's a slight edge for white. It's a good position for white, and one of the reasons for that is this weakness on c3. You do have to watch for counterplay on the b file, of course, but overall this is a position white should be satisfied with. Okay, that's it for the Sicilian dragon. Let's take a look at the accelerated dragon. So in the accelerated dragon, black is trying to be a little bit sneaky. So let's step forward a few moves. E4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. So avoiding the d6 move, and we'll see the point of that in a moment. And then white continues as usual with d4, going for the open Sicilian, and then g6. So on this move, previously we saw a knight to previously we didn't have a knight on c6 here at all, and there was a knight on f6 instead, putting pressure on this pawn. So this is the accelerated dragon, and the idea is that if white continues with a knight to c3, which is still okay, then black can just keep playing and eventually get to a position where this move d5 might happen without having played d6. So black is trying to save a tempo with this way of playing. It's one of the ideas here. So, but there is a flaw in this approach, because this knight has come out instead of this knight. There's no pressure on the e-pawn, and so that means it's white's turn to move in this position, and white can play c4. And so this is the main line of the accelerated dragon. There's actually, by the way, nothing wrong with that knight to c3 move. If you like to play that way and get into comfortable positions there, that's still fine. I do want to mention that once again, knight takes c6. Oops, back up. I backed up too far. Let's see, g6. After g6, knight takes c6 is still not considered a good move. Once again, it's just giving black an extra pawn in the center, and white doesn't have anything in exchange for that. So so after g6, the two moves that you are played most often here are either knight c3 going into those positions, similar to what we saw in the other lines, or c4, just trying to set up a Meraxi bind and challenging this whole idea of the accelerated dragon. Now this is still an interesting line for black. Black has a few tricks here. So knight c6, knight f6 is played here, attacking the e pawn. Knight to c3, defending. Pawn to d6 is played here now, with the two pawns controlling the d5 square. There was no hope of playing d5 in a single bound, so just giving up and playing d6, opening up a line for the bishop, and then bishop to e2. This just would continue as white setting up the normal Meraxi bind setup, pawn on f3, bishop on e3, and castles kingside. A very comfortable position for white. Still playable for black, but I prefer to be white in that situation. I did want to mention there is one tricky option here. Instead of going for d6, black could go for the fianchetto first, and then after bishop e3, defending the knight. I mean, it starts to look like the knight is in danger, so it's got two potential attackers, so you want to have an extra defender on there. Black has the funny move knight to g4, and this is a little trick you should always be aware of. This doesn't win, but you need to know the right response here. So the knight is just hanging here. It's not supported by the bishop. There's a pawn in the way. So you take that knight. But then black can take your knight. And there's only one move here that preserves an advantage for white, and it's the somewhat surprising move, queen back to d1. But after this, either that knight has to move, or black has to play e5, which blocks in the bishop there. So in that case, so this is a case where white still keeps that opening advantage. So this is all good for white, and it's been fine ever since black allowed the Meraxi bind. That's giving white some kind of edge there. Okay, so that takes us. Oh, let's go forward to this main position here before I skip to the next episode. Yeah, so that takes us to the final chapter of this little openings nut video here. That's where I'm going to talk about the hyper-accelerated dragon. In the hyper-accelerated dragon, black tries to save even more time by playing that g6 move on move 2. So here we have a Sicilian. White plays the normal move, knight f3, and black goes g6 right away, trying to save even more time. So let's see how this works out. Now the normal response here is once again d4, takes, and there is, I should mention, there is an interesting sideline here. You can actually take with the queen. He can't, he has to do something about this. He can't put the bishop there, it'll just get taken. So black needs to play knight to f6, after which you can play e5. So this is kind of a funny line. It's okay for white. But black is okay too, with this knight c6 move kicking the queen, and then this knight can come over to d5. Queen can come back to the center. Anyway, it's kind of an offbeat position and not one I'm going to talk about, but if you're interested, you can try that to surprise your opponent sometime. But the normal move here is knight takes d4, and then knight f6 is the line that black plays in the hyper-accelerated dragon. So bringing this knight out before the knight on c6, bring the knight on f6 out, so that this pawn is attacked. So if black, by the way, if black were to have played knight to c6, this would just transpose back into the accelerated dragon that we saw previously. There is another move here. This is bishop to g7, but after that, actually white can play c4 and get the Meraxi bind set up again. So The aim of this line is to prevent white from getting into a Meraxi bind, and at the same time keep open the possibility of playing d7 to d5 in a single move, not stopping at d6. So black is really trying to have everything here. And it seems like black is succeeding here. So defending, now knight to c6, and then in the game that caused me to make this video, I just continued in the normal fashion here. We'll come back to this point. I just continued in the normal fashion here with bishop to e3, playing this like a typical Sicilian Yugoslav attack against the dragon. So he plays bishop g7, I play f3, and actually I was okay up to this point. f3 is already a slight mistake, and the move here I should have played is bishop to c4. If we back up, yeah, bishop to c4 is a little better than what I played. So after f3, the position is about even, so already black is equalized. And after a couple of more moves, let's see, black castles here. I play queen d2, still going for that Yugoslav setup. Black gets in d5. And so black has accomplished what he's set out to. He's gotten a position from the Sicilian dragon, but he's a tempo up. He got that move from d7 to d5. He got that pawn from d7 to d5 in one move, whereas in the normal dragon that takes two moves. And actually black is winning here. Black has an advantage here. Maybe not winning, but a strong advantage, I guess I should say. If I didn't take, if I had castled, this is apparently still playable with only a slight edge for black. But taking, and now black has a winning edge. So he takes here. Wrong. I'm sorry. Wrong take. He takes here. Knight takes c6. I try this trick, trying to weaken this pawn, bring it forward now that the d pawn is gone. He takes. And then I castled here. And as someone pointed out in the commentary to the video, my last rapid Blitz and Rapid session, this is a terrible move. And in fact, bishop takes c6 here is already devastating. I can't take back with the queen. It's protected by the knight. I have to take with a pawn. Then the queen can come out here. And it's a fork. There's a double attack on this pawn and this pawn. So my king position is a mess and I'm down in material. So it's just losing. In the game, my opponent didn't play that. He played queen to, let's see. Oh yeah, he didn't play bishop takes c3. He played queen to c7, but still with a winning advantage. So, and he went on to win that game. I'll include a pointer to that game at the end of this video. It's the second, well, a pointer to that rapid session video, Blitz and Rapid session. It's the second game in the video. The first game I won, so that was nice. So let's back up and see where I went wrong here. It's actually pretty early on. I said I would get back to this point. Maybe let's go back all the way to the beginning so we can remind ourselves how we got here. So we started off as a normal Sicilian, e4, c5, knight f3. Black goes for the hyper-accelerated line. I play an open Sicilian. This is all fine. Then he brings the knight out to attack the pawn. And you have to defend, or, well, defending is a good move here. This is all fine. And then knight c6. This is the point where you have an opportunity to play a good move. And the move here is knight takes c6. So why is this a good move? In the other cases I said it was bad because it brings a pawn to the center, and then he's got this strong center. But it's just about the particulars of the position. So if he takes with this pawn, what you have here is e5. And now this knight does not have a good square to go to. This pawn has never been moved, the d-pawn. This is the disadvantage of not moving that d-pawn. So the knight can't come out here to g4, for example, and attack that pawn. It's got to go somewhere. If it comes to d4, it'll get taken and it'll lose a pawn. So the best move, according to the chess engine, is actually to put it on the side like this. The other playable move is to put it back on g8. And then bishop to c4. and we can leave the position here, but you can see that white has taken over the center. You know, f4 is still a playable move here, and white has good development, and black's only developed piece is this knight over here on the edge of the board. So just a good position for white. And what's the other option here? The other option would be to take with the d pawn, but this doesn't work either. You should trade queens, and then you can develop this bishop with tempo, because that's an undefended pawn there. Best is actually to bring the king back. I mean, you could consider defending like so, but that will block in the bishop. So actually the best move is to bring the king back. Then you can again push on with e5. Then I can come to g4 now, a slightly more active square. But you can defend the pawn with f4. And you've got a good position here once again. You've got two pieces out. You have a strong center. Black has lost castling rights. I don't know if that's particularly important in this position, but you do have the option of castling here as white. And you can kick this knight back. So once again, a very good position for white. So that is the message that I wanted to give you in this video. So that's how you can deal with the hyper accelerated dragon. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.